Hi, I'm Woody from Polar, and you're watching Sonic Perspectives.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good, man. We got it. We're there. Thank you so damn much for for coming online and having a chat with me about everything Polar and everything everywhere, of course, coming out
Oh,
next year.
brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, you're using the title. Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you very much for having me. No, the pleasure's all mine.
I'm really excited to dive into it because before I press record, I was going to say that I actually hadn't spent much time listening to Polar before I saw your album come up from Adam Splitter, the PR guys that are taking care of you. And for some reason, normally, obviously I get a bunch of stuff and it'll come through my emails and go, oh, that looks pretty cool. And sometimes I won't have time, but I saw the album cover, and for some reason, the album cover, I was like, ooh, okay. And I don't know what it was, but I think we can get into that in a little bit. But anyways, long story short, I grabbed it, I opened it up, listened to it, and went, okay, I'm interested to learn more. So I'm really excited to chat more about this and see what happens.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. I will tell you everything you want to know and everything you want to need to know. Yeah. So and thank you very much. The album cover's done its work. That was a big thing during the process. Is our visual representation of what we put out alongside the music. It's always been a major focus as the band to combine the two. The visuals are as strong as the music, and the music is as strong as the visuals. And we always try to go for a bit of a thought-provoking angle. So when you brought that up, it's that suddenly was like brilliant. It's done its job. It's caught someone's eye. So that's a real payoff for us. That's a real victory.
Yeah, I mean, I personally might be biased. I like the color purple and lilac, or at least at the moment I do. Like, let's see, purple bottle.
Yeah.
And then I've got a whole bunch of guitar picks here. One of them's purple. Oh, it's a little bit blurred. There you go. Purple.
Yeah.
Purple. And there you go. So I've got a thing going on at the moment. So that might have also been why. Nonetheless, doesn't take away from the fact that it's just a very interesting thing to look at, because you kind of don't know what it is at first. You're like, is that like, is it fabric? Is it a wave? Is it a sound wave? Like, what exactly what it is? And it kind of invites you to really investigate it. So I'm glad I did, honestly.
Yeah. So and obviously we birthed a record out of that cover. So and thank you for checking it out.
Yeah.
And ask away. What would you like to know?
Yeah. Well, look. Quick thing. Of course. 2022 is wrapping up. And one thing that I saw from you guys was that, you had a ton of streams this year on Spotify. You had nearly a million, I think.
Yeah.
And that is cool. I mean, how does it feel for you guys as you're going into next year and you're about to pump out a huge album? How does it feel knowing that you've got that much support with you as you move in?
It's absolutely fantastic because it rewards you. It keeps you going. It's the fuel to the engine. It really is the motivation. You when you're making and creating a record or creating songs, you just want people to love them and get behind them and support them. That's that's the bigger wish. So when you can get these sort of end of year wraps and you see the numbers and the hard figures, it's so encouraging. And it gives you a great feeling. And that, to be honest, is a representation of from June this year onwards, because prior to that, we had disappeared off all social media for about 2 years, which was actually supposed to be a 6-month break and then come back due to a lot of the issues we had making the record. So for 2 years, we were gone. No one, nothing. Literally didn't say a word. The world changed. The world went through many life-changing moments, and we were as silent as a mouse. And to come back and push out your new material and not really know if you've still got your place in the music scene, to see the rewarding figures at the end. You know, it really kind of makes you feel, well, 2023 should have a lot to offer, you know, and we have a lot to give. So
Yeah. And honestly, it's from what you've put out so far, from what the people would have heard so far, it's really just it's fun. Like that's a really important thing, I think, as people kind of move into, obviously there's such uncertainty going on at the moment, for so many reasons. But this album, and as I said, from what people have heard so far, the songs are beautiful, they're sad, but they're also really just entertaining. And I think a lot of people are looking for stuff like that. So maybe it's almost no surprise that you've had that much support in 6 months. So yeah, I'm so excited for you guys to see how how this album kind of is received by everyone, and how it just hopefully resonates with so many more people than you can think.
Yeah, it's I think with the singles, what we've put out, and obviously there is a strategy behind that, was to kind of cover the pockets of the album where it goes a little bit. It was just basically to show that if we released a bit more of a metalcore single, the whole album isn't a metalcore record. If we do a rock single, the whole album's not a rock single. We obviously released Rush recently, which has a very it's based around very much a drum and bass kind of style drum, like beat drum pattern, and that's definitely more in the shoegaze variety of music that we've done, but again, the whole record's not laced with that. It's not completely full, so we wanted to basically prepare people to be like, cool, we've done some things, we've tried some things here, there is some new avenues that we haven't explored before, and it kind of just allows people to warm to it. And I did a lot more with my voice on this record. I really explored the more sung and the more melodic aspect of it, whereas other records haven't gone that deep into it. They've touched the surface, or they've dabbled around the point a bit, but they've never really hit the nail on the head, whereas this record really does. And I think with the singles, it's been like, cool, well, here's a little bit of everything, and eventually you're going to get the whole thing, and there's a lot of little twists and turns. And even for the songs that haven't been put out yet and people haven't heard, there's a lot in there that's like, we tried different things here. This was not a conventional record for this band, so
it definitely touches on a lot of stuff. It really does. It's very colorful. I think that's, and well, probably about as colorful as the video for Rush. That is probably the best way to describe it. But the music, so I mean, we go back to Black Days, for instance. I mean, that's more like Old Being as an Ocean, Touche Amore kind of stuff, like real 2010s melodic hardcore. And then of course now you've got stuff that's potentially more akin to like modern metalcore, like Architects and whatnot. Even parts of like Your Demise, like that old Your Demise stuff kind of comes in every now and then, which is so sick. It's so fun to hear. So, and it's a huge development, of course, because you've gone from a couple of different styles here and there, which kind of focus on fury and aggression, but now it's all the emotions. And I wanted to ask, is that a development that you guys have seen as a conscious decision, or has that been like a subconscious development over the course of the career?
I think it's a bit of both, because if you take our first record, like Iron Lungs, came out in like 2012. My voice is so high. I don't think I could even play or sing those songs.
It's gnarly, man.
And yeah, it's like, I listened to it not long ago, and that's like knock loose high, like that. I'm ripping my vocal cords, but the development and the character change in the band comes with inspiration. We've grown up doing this. We've had lineup changes, and the current lineup we've done with this record is the bass player and the drummer Noah C and Gav Fain. It's their first record with us, and I guess that's probably helped with the change so much in this, is because there's two fresh heads that have seen the band from an outside perspective and have been brought in, and they've gone, well, you need to do this is what your band needs to, and that's brilliant. That helped the change. But the consciousness is, we we went from being quite very discordant, very abrasive, and then it's like we were playing with bands that were putting a lot more melody in, and we were like, they're getting a really cool reaction. You know, it's really good, like hooks and melody and like choruses, and we're like, we could probably do some bits like this. And that obviously then went into Shadowed by Vultures, was this like melody driven, more of a like take away the abrasiveness, and then we can put things in there that people latch onto. And then it was, you see the progression and the success in that within your fan base, and it's like, cool, well, let's just expand on that a little bit more. And I would say with No Cure, No Savior, that was probably the more of us being in the hardcore region, like where it wasn't quite like metalcore and it wasn't kind of hardcore. It just sat somewhere between the two. And people were like, cool, this is good. Like, this has got a little bit of both of what I really like. And then I think, you know, as the band moved into Nova, the interest into bands like Architects and Bring Me was like, cool, this is, we're getting a real kick out of this kind of style. Like, maybe we can adapt, maybe we can change, maybe we can pull a little bit out of these kind of bands that we're listening to. And obviously having a different lineup on Nova, and then we've moved into Everywhere Everything, and with the fresh ideas and an increase in ability. Like, I will never take anything away from any previous member in Polar, but Gav and Noah are incredibly talented musicians, and they lock in very well as a rhythm section, but they also bring a lot more in instrument playing and in the ability to write melody. And so that just really kind of added a new platform. And that new platform allowed us to really work and open doors and be like, we've never really done this before. Shall we try it? Let's do this. Now, with Everywhere Everything, the record took 2.5 years to make in total. So we had a long time in our hands, and that was initially set out as a plan to do. The record was 6 months, and the record was supposed to be out in the pandemic. You know, we lead through the pandemic with material, and we obviously then come back alive on our social media, and then come out of the pandemic, and it's like back into shows. But due to restrictions, lockdowns, the changing of the ability to write music, because we had always written music as a collective in a room or in groups, and that's where you get chemistry. And then all of a sudden it's like, you're going to do this on Zoom out of a Dropbox, and you're never going to be in a room together. And it's like that. Yeah, that it was hard because it created objectives and new hurdles to jump over, and new things that we were like, we've never faced this. This is quite difficult. But I think in that process of the weights and strains of actually having to do it like that, it made us push that little bit harder, because we had time and we were like frustrated in what was going on. You weren't as most bands were, you didn't know what was going to happen. You know, were you ever going to play live again? Was this record ever going to see the light of day? You know, was it ever going to get finished? And all of those pressures added to what that album pulls in, like emotionally, I think. And with the fresh ideas, and I guess we toured some really, really cool bands in 2020. Like bands that are like really kind of pushing the boundaries a bit more. So you like Spirit Box, Alpha Wolf, Made Them Suffer, After the Burial. And we were seeing them do some heavier, like much heavier stuff than what we had. And it's like, maybe we could try some heavy stuff, you know? Like really heavy stuff. Like maybe we should go more into that, more the metallic side, like musically, than we probably have done in previous records. And and you know, we're super proud of the outcome, however long and however hard it was. So
it's so much work, you know, 2 years of making music, not as like obviously as a band, but when you have that level of separation between everyone and you're doing it via Dropbox, you don't realize it at the time, but I feel like you actually start surgically dissecting every clip and every riff that you're sent, or every drum pattern. You're like, I don't like the ghost note on that snare. I don't like the way that guitar rings out. And then you realize that if you were all together, you would never think about that kind of stuff, because you never dive that deeply into it when you're actually playing as a band and just feeling the atmosphere and the feeling of it. So that must have been really hard to adjust to. I guess that's what you were saying.
Yeah, it's Yeah, this is the thing. I think you've got to be like, I'm being very honest with it, is it was not the best time this band's been alive. You know,
Mm,
we and by no means did we, it was it all completely like an absolute nightmare, because there were some incredibly great highs and some incredibly great moments together, more so once the pandemic and the lockdown started easing and you could have that ability. But
yeah.
we were fundamentally building a record in these Zooms over this Dropbox. Misconstruction was causing a lot of problems, and like our mental health, we really suffered. And I don't think anyone really took it on board how much it was like starting to really grill our mental health, because you're just locked in this kind of tunnel vision where you just want to get the record done, you want the best songs you can possibly do, and you're kind of ignoring maybe the well-being side of it. And it,
Mm,
yeah, there were points where we argued over a structure of certain songs, didn't talk to each other for a bit. Yeah, it was, yeah, and we had like hour-long conversations about the smallest intricacy in a
yeah.
guitar note that, as you just said, nobody would probably ever hear this. Not even like the most well-trained ear, but for us it was a real big deal. And
Yep.
when you see the counter argument is, if that was in a room together, those kind of little things would probably be ironed out in seconds, and
Yep.
not even maybe spoken about, but they became much bigger and rawer deals, because I think everyone was just feeling like the pressure of the way the world was, and the fact that you're trying to sort of do your best work, but you're not doing it in the best conditions. You're adapting and learning.
It's definitely under pressure. But funnily enough, I mean, of course, you change from a 6-month window to a 2-year window. So it's a different kind of pressure, right? It's not time constraint. It's literally just the pressure that you've placed on yourself, and the pressure on the communication, the pressure on the relationships, and the pressure on even just like putting forward the best little file that you have and giving that to the band and being like, okay, well, what do you think of that? And they go, don't like it. And it's like, I tried really hard on that little riff.
Yeah, and that happened a lot.
Yeah.
And it was it made you made yourself, had to make yourself very thick-skinned,
Mm,
because you had to realize that everything was up for critique, everything could be judged, and rightfully so. Everyone was just
yep.
trying to do their best, and it wasn't a personal attack, and then no one was getting like this is rubbish. It was just like, this is cool, but I might hear it differently, or that verse could be better, or we, out of everything you've written, we only want these 4 lines. It like, but that was only them when looking back on it, trying to really sort of sieve out what was great and what was gold and what wasn't, and to
Yeah.
make sure that we could lace an album full of gold, opposed to being in a constraint of maybe where we've had to do records with a much shorter time scale in a real pressure, and it's like, this is the song, it works, cool, yeah, let's just get it tracked. We had like time on our hands. It's like you could
Yep.
work over verses, you could go away and really think about the songs, and you
Mm,
just have demos in your ears, and I think it did pay off, and it was just hard to feel that payoff for a long time, because
mm,
once we'd finished the record, it was like, we've had it for a while, so like nobody's gonna hear this for a while, and it comes out in like January, and I'm like, I've had this for a long time, like, like, and it feels old news to us, but I know it isn't, and yeah, it was I think I don't think I would want to do it fully in that process again.
no.
I maybe take aspects of it. Like there
Yeah.
was a like, if you look at it now, the ability to, we realized, of being able to contact each other much more fluidly via Zooms, which necessarily maybe we hadn't done in the past, because it was more fixated on trying to be together. That definitely maybe adds an ease to discussion points. Like, we don't need to always be sat in the same room together in a studio trying to, we can maybe hop on a call and discuss apart, like discuss
Yeah.
where things going. So yeah, you've got to try and see like the sunshine through the rain, really, with it. So it's like, what was good, what did we take out of this that was
Yeah.
real, like a challenge, and we felt that challenge was overcome, and we actually we grew from it. But yeah, it was really like hard. We wrote about 14 songs in total. um
Okay.
yeah, and actually you're the first person I said that to, so there you go.
Feel
14
special.
songs existed, 10 songs made it, And up until the day our drummer, because our drummer had to go and track drums with just one other, with Gav, because of restrictions and lockdowns. We were in a
Mhm.
studio with a producer called Ramesh, and he's in Wales, and Wales and England were literally banned from going over the border because of the lockdowns. And so obviously you've got a booking in a studio you can't even go to. So eventually we got there. And I think our track listing was finalized within about 30 seconds from Noah tracking the last drums, and this one of the songs changed, and
Oh,
it was like,
wow.
we're doing these songs, these are the 10, these are the 10, everyone's happy with the 10, yeah, we're gonna go with these 10. And then it's like, are we doing these 10? And it's like, maybe we should change that song. And it's like, and he Noah, in his full credit, was very well equipped and very well knowledged on all the songs. So it wasn't like, I've got to learn this. It was a bit more like, I
Yeah.
could have had a bit more time doing this instead of doing that. But
Yeah.
you know, maybe that last minute change did make a difference, and I think it did. You know, it was the 11th hour kind of call was like, yeah, scary at the time, but it has paid off. But it was just like, it was really like, when you start making a record and everything starts to come out and you start hearing the ideas, and it's like, these are new like perspectives for our band, and everyone's really hyped, and then you go into like 9 months and it's like you're trying to keep the energy, and it's like, and it really was an energy thing.
Yeah.
So by the time we got out of the lockdown, we were not only building a record, but we were rebuilding our relationships. Like, we were having to rebuild everything. And I'd probably say it's safe to say that some of that is still pretty much in a work in progress, because and leading into the actual what the context of the lyrics are, it was about like, for me, the pandemic became about human connection. We're a species that was supposed to socialize, and we had that severed, and that, you don't realize at the time how much that actually changes your perspective, and suddenly you've got to go back together, especially with, you're being told you can't go around all these people and go near people, and all of a sudden they're like, it's now fine. It was, yeah, that has impact, and you see a lot of people a lot of times over the years, and all of a sudden you can't. It was like suddenly we had to really look into it, like, and rebuild what we were as friends as much as what we were rebuilding as songs for the record.
Yeah, that's a lot of work, really. I mean, to build the album, but then to maintain a relationship. And I feel like most, if not all, relationships are always like a work in progress. But some of them obviously just take more energy in certain times, right?
Yeah,
And a pressure cooker like what happened the past 2 years is like so dangerous. But at the same time, you know, with pressure comes diamonds. And I feel like if you've come out of it with an album of this magnitude, then you've kind of nailed it. Like you've done a credit to yourselves, to put it simply.
yeah,
But,
thank you.
no, thank you. Well, let's talk about this album.
Yeah,
Everywhere, everything, everywhere. Sorry.
yeah.
We've obviously, you just touched on the idea of human connection, but the album cover connects with it really well because it's so simple. Yet I feel like there's a billion little things that could be hiding in that album art. So is that something that you kind of went for? Is that it's like it's one thing, but it's also like it's obviously little dots or little flecks of,
Uh,
I don't know specifically what it
I
is.
can let you know what it is if you want the deep secret, or you can keep it as because the problem is,
Don't
if I
tell
let
me.
you know
Don't
what
tell
it is,
me. No,
no. Well, if I don't,
maybe.
I've
No,
tried to
don't.
keep it a secret as much as possible. But
It's just
uh,
this.
yeah, it's that. It is
Oh,
that.
thank you.
Um,
That's all I need to know.
a good one was actually, like, Noah's mum looked at it and she said it represented like the sands of time. She saw like a movement, like channels, so like each channel representing
Ooh.
like a different movement, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, yeah, that's and that has real connection to what the lyrical content of the record has. But yeah, I like to give art with music, so they come together, and I think if you can put something out that makes someone really think, like, wow, what is that, or it makes the brain work, that's far more interesting for me, knowing that people are doing that. And that is going to be something that people, even if, like, as you said it yourself, if you go onto Spotify and you just see that image, it just it makes you, it thought provokes you straight from the beginning, like it hits you. And when what we did is we basically went out and we did a big mood board, and we did a lot of research into artists and perspective art. We found loads of different things that we were like, cool, we really like these kind of things and artists. And I have to give the guy a big shout out, but Jack Rogers, he was the guy behind it all. He did all of our merchandise and art design.
I love the hoodie as well, the purple hoodie.
Oh, really?
Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. What I was going to say, if you love purple, we are your band at the moment.
I
Everything we
know.
is
There's something about you guys, yeah.
But yeah, we gave him an art brief, and it was like, we were just talking about like sundials and everything, like, because the context being about human connection and time and sequences and things happening, like present time, past, and like the future, and all of these kind of like what's going on in all these kind of relationships we have with friends, family. We really wanted like the artwork to represent that, of like in a way that it wasn't just on the nose, that's a sundial or that's a clock. So a representation of time. And Jack went away and he came back and he was like, I've done this. And we were like, that's it. That's there was a couple
That's
of tweets,
amazing.
but that was like, that's exactly how we were kind of envisioning it going. It wasn't necessarily like that's the one everyone had in their head, but it was, with the artwork there was a bit of an open-ended interpretation as well. It wasn't like, here's the brief, you've got to follow that word for word. It was a bit more like, we want you to do your thing, but these are the kind of the aspects of we want you to try and look and or bring into the art. And he came away and was like, I've done that. And we were like, boom, thank you very much. That is our cover.
It is so satisfying when an artist can just understand what you want and then fill in the gaps. And it's like, that's exactly what I didn't know that I had in my head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've managed to pull something out that is like, wow. And I think as well, it's like with the covers, you want it to stand the test of time and not feel dated, and I feel that record won't. I think that image doesn't feel like it has a particular time frame on it, that you're suddenly something, you know, the genres are all going to change and everyone's going to change what, and it's like, oh, that doesn't look or fit the aesthetic anymore. I do feel that this one will hold its weight over time.
For sure. It's beautiful, and then it's, yeah, as you said, it's so thought-provoking. A sundial. That's a cool little concept in there. I like that.
Well, the sundial, the reason we go with the sundial, because the album is all about light and dark. So your lighter, more airy moments like Rush, Winds of Change, Everywhere, Everything, and then you've got your more dark aspects. Obviously with a sundial, the light and the dark is represented by the time going around. Obviously your light is what you have left, your dark is what's, you know, behind you. So those were in my head, we were all, between us all, we were all thinking, well, that's a good representation of what our record is. It's a series of time and moments and situations that are represented by dark and light. So let's try and replicate that in a way that we can with an imagery or some form of imagery, and that's where the record's cover came in.
Jack Rogers.
Yes. He's in a band called Acres.
He's in a band as well.
Yeah. And he's a fantastic guy. He's been doing some incredible work recently with My Chemical Romance and Bring Me the Horizon stuff.
Very cool.
So yeah, and he had worked, I think how it came about and how it worked really well is he had worked on Nova, our previous record, on the merch line. So there was already a relationship there. So it wasn't a case that we're having to go in quite dry with someone and be like, got to build a relationship and then get this guy on board with our mentality. He knew the band previously and had worked, and it was kind of like, we're bringing you back on board, but this is going to be much greater and bigger than what you probably had done in the past. But he's done a fantastic job. He really has.
He's killed it. He absolutely killed it. And another person who you've worked with for this campaign, would be Loki Films, or
Yeah,
another company, another entity that seems to be growing in size every time I look at it. But yeah, Loki Films, of course, did the video for Rush.
yeah.
Did Loki Films do anything else for this album?
No, just that one.
Just for Rush, yeah.
With Rush. We had three
It
different directors for all the three videos.
That's cool. That's
So
very cool.
yeah,
But yeah, Rush is something special, and I mean the whole effects, the kaleidoscope style effect thing, that reminds me a lot of a German TV series called Dark. I don't know if
I
that's
love it. I love Dark. You've got me. There you go. If you want inspiration about where our album come, I watched that and I was like, wow, okay. But yeah,
it's
uh,
just
yeah.
it's stellar. It is absolutely amazing. Even though I don't know if the lyrics specifically allude to the story of Dark in Rush, but for like some of the lines, I was like, oh, that could relate. Like you could kind of make it relate.
Yeah, there's that was a big part of my like inspiration, I guess. Like, and I'm glad you touched
Crazy.
it. Yeah, loved it. And it was all about, like, I guess what our record like is about personal experience, but the human connection in that, it was like certain people's reaction, like situations or actions were changing things so dramatically, and I was like, this feels like what's going on in my life or what's going on in the world I'm doing it, that the smallest little ripple over here is causing a massive wave over there. And I was like, yeah, this is engrossing me. Like I'm really sort of like fully on board with it, and I loved it. But yeah, it did have an inspiration. And yeah, so the kaleidoscope stuff is just, because the song was so different and it was so different to anything we've done, we were just like, the video has to be different with it.
Mm-hmm.
It has to complement each other. And Noah came up with the idea of a kaleidoscope and was just like, I really like the idea of all these explosions of like shapes and colors.
Yeah.
And Sean of Loki Films, we had a meeting with him. Gav shot all of the just the imagery of myself and Ellie. We just went to a studio and we just spent a couple of hours just going through the song, and it wasn't very energetic. I didn't need to throw myself around and go mad. It was very easy. I just
Yeah.
warm the song, move my hands, and create some of these motions. And then we talked to Sean at Loki, and he was like, we gave him the ideas and some inspiration about what other videos we'd seen and where we could probably take it. And again, he went away and absolutely smashed it. Yeah, the video was just incredible. It was and that was far greater than I imagined in my head. I watched that and I was like, wow, okay, yeah, no,
It's good.
he's really taken what we said and made it that much bigger. Like, he's made it huge.
Some of the comments on, I think it was on YouTube, were just like, this is creepy. Like some people were just creeped
Disturbing.
out by
Someone was like, I like the song, but the video's disturbing. I was like, disturbing. Like, I mean, I wouldn't go disturbing. I mean, it's a lot going on in it, but like,
yeah, I'd say maybe disorienting at its most extreme.
yeah,
Disturbing. It's like, God, yeah. Just
no one
relax.
dies in it. Like, no,
No blood.
no, it's just color. There's a lot of smoke and color
Lots
and
of colors. Yeah, just
yeah.
relax, would you? But yeah, no, it was a really cool thing to watch. And now that you've said, I don't know if this is real, maybe you've never seen this movie, but now that you've talked about, how, the things that we do affect, it affects people, it affects, I think, you can't go too deep, but there's a movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, there's a bit of a story behind it. I've seen it. I love it. I know it's a great film,
It's
but
beautiful.
I didn't know that film existed. When I wrote the title, this Everywhere Everything song came first. The album title came second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We had that song, and we had written that song, and then the title came up a number of times, and it was like, that's a really cool title, and we'd never really sort of done too many sort of self-titled stuff. I think previously, on maybe one record, did it, and then the film came out, and then it was like, now everyone's gonna think that I've stolen that from that, and that's where I got that. And
oh no.
I take it as a compliment, because it's an incredible film and it's full of color, and it's an explosion in itself.
It is. Yeah, and I really do feel like the messages in that movie are very, very similar to the messages that you're talking about in your album. I
Yeah,
really feel like that, and like that movie's so beautiful. I think I was so emotional at the end. It was just like, especially the husband, I forgot his name, but the fact that no matter what timeline you find this whole story going through, he's always loving his wife through every
yeah,
single one of them, and that ruined me. That killed me.
yeah, that was it. Yeah, he never loses that love.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was like, oh, it's too much.
yeah, it's with with that kind of stuff, I guess with the director of that, it's great. Great minds think alike.
Mm,
If someone else is thinking that as well, yeah, that's a good thing, and they're able
100%.
to display it in their own creative method. And that film is just insane. It just really is. It's just,
It's a lot.
it's a lot, but it was just clever, very beautiful, and then it really does. It pulls emotion out of you,
For
and
sure.
that is what I want people to get from our record. Is I want it to pull emotion out of people. I want people to explore maybe
Yeah.
the idea that their like relationships and personal relationships have changed. I don't think people have faced up to a lot of things, and we've been living in this purgatory where it's like people know things have changed, but there's like that hard step forward to realizing and accepting this is this is all changed. It's all
Mm.
very different. They are the same people, but everything is all on very different angles. And with our record, I think when people hear it, and more so maybe the lyrical side of it, I want people to be like, cool, yeah, like maybe things have changed. Maybe
Yeah.
I should approach a personal relationship a bit differently, or maybe I need to get in contact a bit more with these people and speak to them and not be so much on the outside. And yeah, I think that hopefully will challenge people to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty cool instigator. And of course you're right. I mean, people are more social than they ever have been, but in the exact wrong way.
Yeah.
Where like, I send my friends just videos on Instagram more than I actually message them saying hello. Just
Yeah.
stuff like that. And it's not great.
The,
But
the basic part
yeah.
of connection has been probably been tested more so than it has done in my generations or any of our generations.
Yeah.
And people, yeah, people have just, unfortunately, it has knocked a bit of the worst side of humanity out because of this.
Mm,
um, and I just want people to maybe like realize, like, no, it's not all bad. Like, let's not all focus on the negativity. There's some idiot celebrities out there that are really making names for themselves, like just running their mouth, and it's like, let's not focus on that. Like, you have friends, you have families, you might not have got on with your girlfriend during the pandemic, but that relationship might have changed. Face it up to it, and it might allow you to see the world in a different way.
mm.
And that's fundamentally a lot of what everywhere everything is. It's me saying, like, yeah, I know this isn't what it was, and I want to maybe have to learn to adapt, but I might need to approach things in a different way to do that adaptation.
It's also kind of letting go of the ego as well, kind of thinking it's like, I'm right, or I can't possibly be wrong, or my train of thought must certainly be the most, have the most integrity than other people's. But it's a lot of like, okay, maybe I need to actually just check myself for a second and
Yeah,
see what's going on.
yeah, and I think sometimes that's just like self-care.
Mm.
And I think we just live in such hard times that I think that needs to be alive and well more than ever. And yeah, I'm lucky because I get the ability to make it into 10 tracks, but I feel honored that I can make 10 tracks that will maybe help someone understand themselves a bit more, or understand the things that are going on around them a bit more.
Mm. And I feel like this album does invite someone to kind of actually listen to it in a space, as opposed to, like running to get the train on time and having it in their ears and kind of just goes over their head. Like, I feel like it's an album that really does ask people to kind of sit down and, or have it on, I don't know, have it on at home while they're cooking or something, like just to be there. And actually it's similar to an album, uh Experience Everything, Live and Die by The Comfort, which came out this year, and it's a very similar vein to that. And like, they even went and released this little thing after the album, said like the best way to experience this album, it's like have a cup of tea, sit down, get your favorite cushion, you know, like it was like they were really like trying to make an atmosphere for the listener, and I thought that was super cool. And that kind of reminds me of what you guys, or sorry, what you guys are doing kind of reminds me of that, and that the album itself is just, it makes me want to dive into it and sit down and listen to it. So I hope that people approach it the same way that at least I've been invited to.
Yeah, it is. It's our band's always been about open arms and welcoming people in, uh and making sure I want people to walk away with an experience, and I want them to walk away with an emotion from it, and to strike a chord with them. But but when you're writing it, it's so hard because you just don't know what people are going to connect with. You can't make people just connect to your band. But when we started now, obviously with the 5 singles we've got out, and all of the real energy of us actually having a record out, I do generally think people will walk away thinking, I've had a real experience. I've learned a bit about myself. Or I've learned, I'm not the only one that goes through these trail of thoughts, or these harder feelings, or the idea that I can't connect with the people that I loved pre-pandemic. So yeah, it's there, and it's almost like that record's there for you. You can have that. Yeah, that is, it's like your comfort cushion. If that it fits all emotions. If you're happy, that record will be there for you. If you're sad, that record will be for you there. If you're angry, it's got things there for if you're angry as well. So like it does, it lends itself in all those different emotions. So, and we will hopefully see that everyone does connect with it. So that's the plan.
I'm sure they will. And one could even argue that the album cover kind of looks almost like it could be a like a purple corduroy cushion. So maybe someone could just kind of interpret it that way.
Yeah, that's a new one. Yeah, no,
I prefer the Sands of Time though. Let's just go Sands of Time. It's pretty cool. But let's talk about Ellie for a bit. So Ellie's the vocalist of Signals, but she's been involved with Polar since 2014 from my memory, around that. And for this album, you've asked her to really participate in the writing and the vocal side of things. So I mean, how did her contribution and her full-on involvement this time around, what did it do for you guys as a band? How did it affect the dynamics, I suppose?
Oh, it elevated it massively. Because what happened with Ellie is brief backstory. When we did Shadow Bird Vultures, we'd written an instrumental track which actually became a song called Before the Storm, and we said to the producer at the time who was doing the record, we want to put a female vocal on this. Like, we don't want Woody screaming all over this one. It's too much for Woody to scream over. We would love a female presence because we think it would lend itself to the track. And he was like, I know this like singer called Ellie, and I've been recording her band Signals, and he rang her up, invited her down, we met, she did the track, everyone was like jaw to the floor, like that was incredible. And then every time we've done a record, it was just like, we did No Cure No Savior, we were like, do you want to just come down and like, it fundamentally was just kind of singing our parts but better maybe, and like making a part really like pop out and have like a real moment. And she's got such an incredible voice. She's an incredible person, and she just oozes talent. And then we were talking about the next record when we were actually on a tour pre-pandemic, just before lockdown hit, and we were like, wouldn't it be cool just to bring her in and have her perspective more so on songs, like have her say this verse is good, or take these words out, or why don't we sing it like this, and why don't you change that melody? And it just allowed us to break the mold and really experience the vocals outside of the box. For the first time, we were like, we can do so much more now. Like, why didn't we think about this melody? And it's sometimes things that are like staring you straight in the face, but because you're so involved and you're so soaked into it, you just don't see those little bits. And someone comes along and goes, actually, just sing it like this. And you're like, wow, there we go, boom. And she literally made that record come alive vocally and melody, and all the melodies she worked on. And she worked so hard. We're forever in her debt. There is a deal that we will play some shows together. That is kind of the deal, and I promise that I will make that happen. So at some point you may see this come alive on a stage. It's even amazing. But I think this time around as well. I think she like had a real personal connections with the song as well, or the album, I should say, because we went to Cardiff to track the vocals, and we all lived in a house together. We had like a 9-bedroom Airbnb. We kind of were living like a little bit of a family there. Her boyfriend was staying as well, and we all got along really well. And it was like we would be at the studio in the day, and then in the evening we'd have dinner, and then it was like we'd sit down and write in like the living room and get a notepad out, go over parts. And it was like these were the moments that were really like polishing the gold. It was like the next day we were going to track, it was like, oh, it's fresh in everyone's head, and the changes were the right kind of like dots in the right X's, and the T's were getting crossed in the right, and it was like we were going in, and the tracking process was just making it so much smoother, and we were getting these like results that I don't think we would have got if she wasn't there. So she literally absolutely helped me show confidence in doing other things with my voice as well. Like she obviously knew that I could do stuff, but I've been so used to having my foot down on the pedal, and I've been going 100 miles an hour, that all of a sudden I had to learn how to do things differently, and she was really good at coaching me through those moments.
Well, that was one of the questions I had that was basically going to follow up, was like, what did she do for you personally? And it's like, you can't answer my question. So she taught you how to go back to third gear and just kind of coast a little bit,
and enjoy the melody, enjoy what you're
That's
singing.
good.
And really connect your voice with what you're singing. And I like absolutely like forever be in her debt about the amount of effort and time she put into what I could be as a singer. And it just, by helping me, I think it allowed her to explore more with what she was doing within the songs, and that allowed those like vocal moments to really like blow up and expand and sound huge. Because it meant if I was doing more, or if the melody was changing, it meant that she could do more on top of it, or we could do more with it. And that opened more doors. So without that coaching, I think that the doors wouldn't have opened as far. And then obviously I had all the help and support from her, and that just allowed us to expand the vocals even more, which made them even better.
I think so. I think so. Yeah. It just creates a whole new atmosphere above the band. And it's really quite a beautiful thing. So it's really cool to hear that not only did you guys work together, but she also was able to give you something that you could actually take away from the album, as well as put into the album. That's quite a special thing.
Yeah. Unforgettable moment, really. Because it allowed me to grow my confidence in an aspect of my voice that I probably wasn't so confident of doing. The singing parts didn't just come overnight and didn't come easy. That took a lot of work. And to feel that I had the safety net underneath with Ellie was, that allowed me to have the confidence to go ahead and actually do these things.
Yeah. And there is a confidence screaming, especially live. It's kind of like, you don't have to be pitch perfect.
No, right.
Not that you can wing
I do
it,
know when I'm not being pitch perfect, but yeah, you can get away with it just.
Yeah, you can kind of just smash it out of the park, and they'll be like, wow, that was really intense. And you're like, yes, it wasn't pitch perfect, but it was intense. It's cool. I mean, your vocals, for instance, on Dissolve, I mean, they are pretty full on. On a scale of 1 to 10, maybe even 12, like how hard were you going in the studio to get that performance? Because it sounds aggressive.
That was the first song I did.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. It's like just letting him out of the okay.
That was the first song. So what I was doing with the songs, obviously I get to pick how I was tracking them. And I was grouping, so I did 2 songs a day, and I was grouping things. So I was taking the aggressive ones, so like Every Eden, which is more like one of the heavier ones, and later in the album, and like Dissolve Me. I was like, cool, I'll do those 2 together. And then the more sung stuff I was doing together. So it was allowing me to be able to concentrate on doing those parts with conviction, and actually like getting them spot on. I couldn't maybe have done like, I do Dissolve Me, then I'm going to do Rush. It's just because my body, like you have to get the adrenaline up when you're doing that kind of like really heavy screaming. And it's all about the tempo, is how much adrenaline's going into it, and how much you're really pushing on it. like Slipknot would do. It's like relentless. You've just got to go at it, like, and it, you know, you feel like your breath running out. You know, it's very hard on the vocal cords. And yeah, I really went for that. Like, I really meant that song.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
and it was, yes, that was the first one. And I think for me, that was, especially the second verse, it was a big thing that weighed over me. I'm like, I've just got to get this right, like bang on right. And it's like, and
Mm.
do it with performance, conviction, aggression. Uh,
Mm.
and once I kind of overcame that song and finished it and it was in the bag, it was like, cool. It was like, that was the first like big hurdle. Cool. Now we're running. Now we're going to the next one and the next one.
Yeah, it's seriously intense. Like it, but the cool thing is also just the attention to detail that you have, specifically as you said, like with the timing. And I thought that I could hear some kind of like Corey Taylor influences when it came to that kind of stuff, because there's one part, I think it's just before a chorus in Dissolve Me. I think I said dissolve before, dissolve me. I think it's like a quick blast beat, but then you scream at the exact same time, and it's just like it's a fleeting but aggressive and accurate moment, and it's like, oh shit, that was really good, and it just and it's gone, and you don't kind of dwell on it. And I thought that was really cool. It's like have that, I'm moving on, you can stay there if you want to. And I thought that was really sick. But
Oh,
your vocal, yeah, no, it was cool, man. But your vocals, I mean, are they false, are they fry? Because I can't figure it out, because it sounds at times that you're just screaming. Yeah, like how you're so
it,
excited. It's like,
it's a bit of both.
yeah.
I use a little bit more like false chord is definitely more in the kin of songs like Winds of Change and
Mm,
everything, where I'm you know, I'm getting a bit more of the aggression. It's using a bit of the fry, but I'm not on tempo. But like the screaming stuff, yeah, that's just full on fry. Like I'm pulling that out, and I'm putting that into it. I get some small comparisons, and I say very small because he's an incredible singer, but like Sam Carter, and
mhm.
just because I think our voices both are in those higher like falsetto range, sort of like fry screams.
Yeah.
uh and yeah, I take a lot of inspiration from him. He's an incredible singer, and he's opening immense doors for everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a bit of a both on it. And then obviously with this, I then did just singing. I actually just sung, which was which I say was probably the hardest out of all of them, the methods that I used
Mm.
record, because that was the foreign one. Whereas like going like full out screaming, I've done that for 12
Yeah.
years. Yeah, I've looked like my eyes are popping out of my head. I've had every vein. But I've had singing coaching. So,
Awesome.
and I had an incredible coach, and he's taught me to relax, because the problem that I had for a long time was I would get very pent up and stressed, and that was just creating a lot of stress inside the body, which wasn't allowing the muscles to be free enough to actually carry a lot out.
Mm.
um, and this was the first record where I've kind of used a lot of like different warm-up techniques, and known a little bit more about the biology behind my like what's actually going on inside me while I'm doing this. And all of these like this knowledge that I pulled out of him, I've kind of managed to like put it into the record, whereas maybe
Mm.
the previous records I haven't had as much guidance, and or had the knowledge and being like, what am I actually doing to myself when I do this? You know, how am I getting this? Like, what is happening inside my throat? Am I hurting myself? You know, and
Yeah.
I think doing what I'm doing with the aggressive stuff, you've just got to be very careful, and just because you don't want to hurt yourself, you know,
Mm.
you can damage yourself doing this. It's you know, it's not normal.
Yeah.
You know,
No, it's not. It's not
no,
normal, is it? It's not
don't
ideal.
walk around screaming your head off all day. Um,
No.
but so yeah, and I think a big there is power in knowledge. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I'm continuously, and it's a work in progress. I'm learning as I'm still learning now, and I don't think, even if Polar was to end, I think I'd still be interested enough to keep learning, because
Mhm.
it's an incredibly dynamic thing to learn. And like, but I switch off sometimes as well, because I don't try to think about it too much, because as well,
Yeah.
like if I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna do the like gnarliest scream here. It will come out with air and just be this like whispery like squeak, and I'm like, yeah. So and I think the like warming up, I do a lot of warming up now, warming down,
Yep.
and that just gets me like into a position where everything is very very loose, and it can carry and resonate, and you can
Mm.
get more strength out of your voice. So yeah, and that's just I think trying to improve our game is like, cool, how do you improve your game? You need to know your knowledge of your instrument. Well, my instrument's singing, so what I bring to the table, I have to be better at each time. And so this is what I did with this record. I went away, I actually got a bit fitter as well. I stopped drinking as much, well, or I quit for about 8 months. I stopped
Solid.
smoking. I started eating really healthy. I started exercising a lot, and that's really helped with singing
Wow.
and doing it, because the body's in a fitter state to be able to
Mm.
do it. Whereas when you're
Yeah.
having like 15 beers a night on tour, and you're on tour for 3 months, and you're just like, yeah, this is not doing me any good. So
No,
and I got better at drinking water. That was,
you
this
got
is
better
very
at
rock
it.
star stuff, is it? Like I'm like, I drink more water, or I eat vegetables, I go to bed early. But yeah,
Um,
unfortunately they're all like attributes to actually being able to perform better. So I realized that I need those things to happen, and I will be better at what I can do.
at the end of the day, you're going live to show people a good time. So,
Yeah.
and you don't have your guitarists or your drummers, pouring beer on their instruments, or
Yeah.
forget forgetting drum keys or using blunt picks. Like, they're all taking care of their instruments, so you've got a responsibility to take care of yours too. But obviously, if they, let's just say they've been playing forever, when they finally retire, maybe they'll have, they might have like RSI in the hand or something. But you, of course, like, or any vocalist, if they're going hard for however many years, like let's just say 10 plus years, and they finish up and they were going hard the whole time, like that's damage for the rest of your life. And you
Oh yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
you gotta be mindful of that stuff. And there's that rock and roll mentality that's kind of, it's cool, sure, but it's cool when it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
It's
with you.
not
Yeah.
cool. It's not cool when you're
Not
like
years
Ozzy
later.
Osbourne now, like Sharon. It's like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, your voice is gonna die. No,
it's
like,
not
like,
it's not good.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, I don't think my wife would be too happy if I started like, I'm gonna see like this now. I think she would be quite annoyed. But yeah, luckily I'm in good health with it.
you are in good health. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, so you of course went to a vocal coach for cleans, and I can imagine that that very much would have transferred into your screaming in terms of what you can kind of bring to, whether it's maybe stamina or projection and whatnot. But is there something regarding your screaming that you really wanted to maybe focus on? Be it enunciation, versatility, stamina, projection. Was there something on this album that you were kind of like, this is what I really would like to kind of see from myself this time around?
Yeah, so I always struggle. I guess I've always, and it's probably the same for a lot of singers. I struggle listening back to my voice, because I guess the way you hear your voice in your head to what your voice actually sounds like is entirely different.
Horrible.
But yeah, it is really horrible. And I just wanted to like, and I obviously I listen to a lot of music, and I listen to other singers and bands, and I'm like, that screams really strong. It's consistent. All the pitch is correct, all the melodies right. It doesn't feel weak. It doesn't lose strength. So with that, I was like, I just want to strengthen everything. I want it to be the best it is.
Mm,
And by doing more and more with my voice, I got used to hearing my voice more. And then I'm sort of kind of becoming at peace with the way my voice sounded. It allowed me then to strengthen it, because I'm
yeah.
like, I'm trying to do this. It sounds like this. It's not really working. There's something in the middle that is kind of there. And I don't think my voice has been bad on other records, but it was like, this is like an opportunity to make this really strong, like,
Yep.
and make it consistent. And by having that consistency and strength, the pronunciation improved. So it was just really kind of like, let's make this the best it can be. It was like getting like that upgrade in that guitar. So you go from playing a Squire and all of a sudden you go to playing the Fender, and it's just better. It sounds more like stronger. It's the same instrument, but you've just got that suddenly that upgrade. Well, that's kind of what I was trying to do with my voice. It's like I wanted to make it sound really strong, and I think that's what the band and the guys deserved. They deserve the strongest vocal performance that I could put on there, because they worked so hard on the music with it, and I felt that I would be letting them down, and I wasn't putting my weight onto the record if I wasn't giving everything that I could to make that record as good as it could be.
How do you know when you've given too much on a line? Because there is like a point where you kind of go, okay, like turn it back a little bit. So how did you know, or how did the band members know? It's like, come on, bring that back down a little bit.
I think that fell really kind of into the engineering and production, because I'm in a booth singing, and they're there listening. So I could really over hit on a line, or really like go too hard on a line, and in my head I could be like, that's the take, but because they hear it back, they're like, no, just do it one more, like maybe go off on the way. So they help produce me as much as our producer did, is because they know how they should, because they wrote the music. There should be a tail here. It shouldn't be so hard there, because the music's not so. They were able to be like, cool, just do this a little bit less here.
Yeah, that's cool.
Here. So that's how we got the takes. It's like they were able to be my like extra pair of ears and eyes without having to worry about how to do the take or be dynamic with my voice, so that I could more concentrate on the dynamics and the actual like production of it, and like what I'm actually doing with it. So yeah, they really helped, and our producer like Ramesh helped as well. It's just like, just sometimes you just like they'll run like 3 or 4 takes, because a lot of the takes, what I would say is, I probably give myself credit, is that we were quite well written with the record. Well, we were very well written, so the lines were never changing that much. There just might have been 4 takes, and out of that 4, the third one was the right one with the like little parts on it, and the nuances were right, or the accents were right. It was just having to feel like, well, that was the actual perfect one that fell correctly. So yeah, sometimes they would get me just run the line a couple of more times. I wasn't doing ridiculously long sessions, which was quite nice, because other records I've done, I've been like Nova, I think we kind of crammed it at the end, and it was like, my voice has so much in it, and I'm there at like 10 o'clock at night, just like sweating. There's like empty bottles around me, and I'm just screaming, and I'm like, I don't even know what's like. But like we were saying earlier, you just covered it. I just felt like I was covering stuff up with screaming, because it's just like, I'm so tired. And like this process was a lot less tiring, which allowed me to focus a little bit more, and allowed me to get the best takes. But we did so much pre-production that everyone knew what was being sung. Everyone knew the part. It wasn't foreign to anyone. So by everyone having that like real knowledge on the songs, it just allowed us to get the perfect takes that we wanted. And then I could trust the guys to be like, yeah, that's the one,
That's really cool. That is really cool. And it's nice to know that you weren't exploited for, a ridiculous amount of time in one session. That's good to know.
Yeah, I've done those for most of my career, and they just like cram sessions that you're on your last day, and you're just literally like, we've still got half a song left. I'm dying here. I'm just going for it. Like, I'm not even like thinking about how good the song's gonna be. I'm just like, I just want to get this done. I just want to
finish it off.
Yeah, I want to sit down. I don't want to shout anymore. So this was a much more like laid back way of doing it, and just with I think we were just a little bit more prepared in that department than we had been, with the help of Ellie and all the production. So it just made the process very smooth.
Well, I'm so excited for people to hear it, man. It's too far away, but it's also really close. But
today, I don't know when this is coming out, but it's obviously the 13th of December today.
It's a month today. Yeah, that's very true.
Today. Yeah.
I want to get this out as soon as possible. It's I'll send this to my my boss man, as soon as I'm done with it, and then hopefully we can get it out as soon as possible. But yeah, I really am, man. Like, I'm so excited for people to hear this, and I think it's such a beautiful album. It's heavy. I think there's something for everyone in it, right? Like, you know, people who have been enjoying since you know, since the very beginning, where it's like just full on, almost not Iron Dissonance, more like Dillinger Escape Plan kind of esque stuff. Like,
Yeah.
there's still that feeling, and then you've got the most, you know, atmospheric, ethereal kind of feelings that come through as well. So I think there's something for everyone in this, and it's going to be a cool experience for a lot of people. So yeah, I can't wait. So January 13th out via A Rising Empire.
Yes. Yeah,
It's
big
gonna
shout
be,
out to those guys. And yeah, hopefully the world will agree with you.
I have a good feeling about it.
Brilliant. Yes, it's just a good feeling to feel there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I can't wait for just people to be able to hear it. It's just that's been a big goal for all the time that we've been going through, is just to be like, everyone's got it. It's there. It's out. It exists.
Thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and hopefully we can do this again.
I hope so too.